The blue waters of tidal prime had always been peaceful. For thousands of years, the Villani people lived in their beautiful coral cities beneath the waves. Their world was perfect, endless oceans filled with life, warm currents that carried food and stories, and deep trenches where their ancestors rested in harmony. But now their world was dying. Captain Zara Vex floated in the emergency council chamber, her gill slits fluttering with worry. Around her, the other council members showed the same fear. Through the crystal walls, they could see the ocean floor cracking. Long dark lines split the seafloor like broken glass. The planet's core was becoming unstable, and their oceans were draining away into the deep cracks. "The loss rate is getting faster," reported Science Keeper Deep Current. His voice carried the weight of terrible news. "We lose another city reef every few days. The water level drops more each cycle." Zara looked at the data floating in the water before them. Numbers and charts showed their doom in cold, clear facts. The planet's core was shifting and breaking apart. Soon their ocean world would become a dry, dead rock. "How long do we have?" asked Elder Wave Dancer, her old voice shaking. "Perhaps 6 months, maybe less," Deep Current replied. "The core will collapse completely. All the oceans will drain into the planet's center." The council chamber fell silent except for the gentle sound of water flowing through their gills. 6 months to save their entire species. 6 months before billions of Villani would die as their cities became exposed to the deadly air above. "We must ask for help," Zara said finally. "Send the call to all civilizations in the galaxy. Someone must be able to save us." The other council members agreed. They had no choice. Their own technology could not fix a dying planet. They needed the advanced races, the powerful empires that ruled the stars with their amazing science and mighty fleets. Deep Current began preparing the message. It would go out through the subspace networks that connected all the major civilizations. The signal would reach hundreds of worlds and thousands of species. The message was simple. "We are the Villani of Tidal Prime. Our world is dying. We need help to save our people. Please respond if you can assist us." Within hours, the signal was traveling across the galaxy at faster than light speeds. It reached the golden ships of the Karathi Empire first. These beings had technology so advanced they could move stars and create new worlds. Surely they would help. The message also reached the ancient Zephyrian collective. These wise beings had lived for millions of years and knew secrets that younger races could not imagine. They had saved other worlds before. The Dominar Federation received the signal too. Their massive war fleets protected dozens of worlds. They had the power to fight planets themselves if needed. Days passed. Zara waited in the communication center watching for replies. Finally, the first response came from the Karathi Empire. "Request received and analyzed," the cold voice said. "Economic assessment shows resource expenditure exceeds projected benefits. Villani civilization rated as Tier 7. Assistance not cost-effective. Recommendation: relocate population to designated refugee worlds." Zara's heart sank. The Karathi wanted them to abandon their home and become refugees on some distant world. But how could they move billions of water-breathing people across the galaxy? More responses came in over the following days. Each one was worse than the last. The Zephyrian collective sent their answer. "Geological intervention of this scale requires energy expenditure beyond acceptable parameters. Suggested solution: accept natural planetary cycle and preserve genetic material for future seeding projects." They wanted to let everyone die and just save some DNA for later. The Dominar Federation was equally cold. "Military assets cannot be deployed for geological projects. Estimated success probability too low. Suggest negotiation with planet engineering specialists." Even the smaller civilizations gave similar answers. "Too expensive. Too difficult. Not our problem. Try someone else." Zara floated in her chamber, reading message after message of rejection. How could these advanced beings be so heartless? Did they not understand that billions of lives were at stake? "Perhaps we are truly alone," whispered Wave Dancer during their emergency meeting. "The great civilizations see us as nothing more than numbers in their calculations." The council was preparing to accept their fate when one more message arrived. This one came from a very different source. A young species from the outer edge of the galaxy. A race that most civilizations barely noticed. "This is Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Expeditionary Fleet," the voice said in basic galactic common. "We received your distress call. We know our technology isn't as advanced as others, But we can't just ignore people in trouble. We're coming to help. Please hold on. We'll get there as fast as we can. The council stared at the message in confusion. Humans? The barely spacefaring species that had only left their home system a few decades ago? What could they possibly do that the great empires could not? Are they serious? Asked Deep Current. Their ships barely have faster-than-light travel. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Zara read the message again. Unlike the cold calculations from the advanced races, this message felt warm. Real. These humans actually cared about strangers they had never met. They said they're coming, she told the council. No one else even offered to try, but what can they do? Wave Dancer asked. If the Kirathi Empire cannot save us with all their power, how can these young humans help? Zara didn't have an answer, but as she looked at her dying world through the chamber walls, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Maybe advanced technology wasn't everything. Maybe what they needed wasn't the most powerful ships or the smartest computers. Maybe they just needed someone who cared enough to try. The humans were coming. It might be their only chance. Outside the chamber, another city reef cracked and fell silent as the water drained away. Time was running out. But for the first time since the crisis began, the Villani had reason to believe they might survive. Somewhere in the darkness of space, human ships were racing toward them. Not because it was profitable or easy, but because it was right. The Villani could only wait and hope that sometimes caring was more powerful than technology. 3 weeks later, the human fleet arrived at Tidal Prime. Captain Zara Vex watched from the orbital station as the strange ships came out of faster-than-light travel. Her hopes sank as she saw them. The human vessels looked nothing like the sleek warships of the great empires. Instead of shining metal and smooth curves, these ships appeared rough and patched together. They were clearly converted cargo haulers, mining platforms, and colony ships. Some even had visible welding marks where new equipment had been added. Leading the small fleet was a ship called the UES Endeavor. It looked like it had been built to carry supplies, not save worlds. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded this vessel, and she was requesting permission to approach the planet. Welcome to Tidal Prime, Zara transmitted, trying to keep disappointment out of her voice. We are grateful you came, but I must ask, where is your main fleet? This is our main fleet, Captain Rodriguez replied. 7 ships, about 200 people total. We brought everyone we could spare and all the equipment we could carry. 200 people to save a world of billions. The advanced civilization sent automated survey drones with bigger crews than that. But the humans were here, which was more than anyone else had done. The human ships took positions around the planet. Unlike other species that preferred to stay in high orbit, the humans moved in close. Their ships looked tiny against the massive blue world, like insects trying to help a giant. Dr. Alex Carter was the first human to visit the underwater cities. He arrived in a strange diving suit that looked like it had been built in someone's garage. The Villani engineers expected him to need days of preparation and cultural briefings, like other species required. Instead, he jumped right into the water and started asking questions. Show me the cracks, he said through his translator. I need to see how fast they're spreading. Science Keeper Deep Current led him to the newest damage. The ocean floor had split open in several places, creating deep trenches that swallowed water like hungry mouths. The cracks were getting bigger every day. Your core is destabilizing, Dr. Carter observed, taking readings with a simple handheld device. The pressure is building up and has to go somewhere. When it releases, it breaks through the weakest points. Yes, Deep Current agreed. We tried using quantum harmonics to stabilize the pressure patterns. We also attempted gravitational field manipulation to redirect the core energy. Dr. Carter looked confused. Quantum what? Sorry, our technology isn't that advanced. We solve problems with simpler tools. The Villani engineer felt embarrassed for the human. Their crude technology would never understand the complex science needed to save a planet. But Dr. Carter continued studying the data with intense focus. Commander Marcus Stone arrived next, along with several other humans. Unlike the precise formal meetings that galactic diplomacy usually required, the humans simply started working. They asked practical questions, took measurements, and studied the problem from every angle. We need to understand how your planet is built, Captain Rodriguez explained during their first meeting with the Villani Council. Not the fancy science part, just the basic structure. Where is the pressure coming from? Where is it going? The humans spread out across the planet, working in the deep trenches and studying the core instability. They used simple tools and basic methods, but they worked without stopping. Where other species would have set up comfortable research stations, the humans worked in difficult conditions without complaining. Reef Singer Coral Twin was assigned to help Commander Stone understand Villani engineering. She was amazed by how quickly the humans learned. When she showed them Villani biotechnology, they didn't demand perfect translation matrices or detailed cultural explanations. They just watched, asked questions, and figured things out. "How do you learn so fast?" she asked Stone during one of their working sessions. "We're used to adapting," he replied, trying to understand how Villani living coral technology worked. "On Earth, we had to survive in many different environments. We learned to make do with what we have." The galactic powers were watching the human operation with amusement. News networks across the galaxy showed footage of the small human ships around Tidal Prime. Expert commentators explained why the mission would obviously fail. "Humans are a young species with primitive technology," said one Karathi analyst. "They cannot possibly succeed where advanced civilizations have determined success is impossible." A Zephyrian philosopher added, "Their emotional response to the Villani crisis shows why younger species should not attempt tasks beyond their capabilities. Logic and calculation prevent such wasteful efforts." But the humans ignored the criticism and kept working. They studied the planet's structure, tested different approaches, and shared ideas freely. Their simple methods produced detailed understanding of the core problem. After a week of investigation, Dr. Carter called a meeting with the Villani engineers. His proposal shocked everyone. "We think we can help," he said, "but not the way you might expect. We can't stop your planet's core from breaking apart. That's beyond our technology. But we might be able to control where it breaks." Deep Current was confused. "Control the core fractures? That seems impossible." "Not impossible," Dr. Carter explained. "Just very dangerous. On Earth, we learned to work with natural disasters instead of fighting them. We can't stop earthquakes, but we can sometimes direct where they happen." Captain Rodriguez added, "We want to try controlled fracturing. Create planned release points for the core pressure, so it doesn't break through your cities randomly." The Villani Council was silent. This human plan sounded insane. Instead of trying to save their world, the humans wanted to break it more carefully. "You want to deliberately damage our planet?" asked Elder Wave Dancer. "We want to choose where the damage happens," Rodriguez replied. "Better to have controlled breaks in empty areas than random destruction under your cities." It was a bold plan, but it was also the only plan anyone had offered. The great civilizations had given up before trying. Only these strange humans were willing to risk everything on a dangerous solution. Zara looked around the council chamber. Through the crystal walls, she could see another city section cracking apart. "They were running out of time and options. What do you need from us?" she asked. "Just trust," Captain Rodriguez said. "And maybe some of your people who know the planet best. We'll need guides for the dangerous areas." The Villani Council voted to let the humans try. What choice did they have? Their world was dying, and these rough, simple humans were their only hope. As the meeting ended, Zara wondered if they were making the right choice. The humans seemed so different from the advanced species. No perfect technology, no elegant solutions, just determination and willingness to try. Perhaps that would be enough. The human plan was unlike anything the Villani had ever seen. While advanced civilizations tried to solve problems with elegant technology, the humans proposed something that seemed almost primitive: controlled explosions. "You want to blow up our planet?" Deep Counselor Wave Dancer asked in horror during the planning meeting. Dr. Alex Carter shook his head. "Not blow it up. Think of it like surgery. We make small, careful cuts to prevent bigger, random tears." The humans had spent days studying Tidal Prime's geology. They identified where the core pressure was building up and where it was most likely to break through. Their solution was to create planned fracture points in empty areas, directing the dangerous energy away from populated regions. Captain Ben Taylor led the Deep Core operations team. He was a former oil rig supervisor from Earth who had spent years working in dangerous underwater conditions. His team included miners, construction workers, and engineers who were used to risky jobs. "Back on Earth, we learned to work with volcanoes and earthquakes," Taylor explained to the nervous Villani engineers. "We can't stop them, but we can sometimes choose where they happen." The first drilling operation began in a deep trench far from any cities. The humans lowered massive drilling equipment from their converted mining ships. The machinery looked crude compared to Volani precision tools, but it was built to work in the worst conditions. Corporal Amy Foster operated one of the deep drilling platforms. She had worked in Earth's deepest mines before joining the space fleet. As she guided the drill toward the planet's core, she could feel the dangerous pressure building below. "The core energy is getting stronger," she reported to Captain Taylor. "The readings are off the charts." "Keep drilling," Taylor replied. "We need to reach the exact pressure point." The work was incredibly dangerous. The humans were drilling into an unstable planetary core that could explode at any moment. One wrong move could trigger the exact disaster they were trying to prevent. Reef Singer Coral Twin watched the human operations with amazement. The advanced civilizations would have used automated systems and computer calculations for such dangerous work. But the humans did everything manually, with people making decisions in real time. "Why do you not use machines for this?" she asked Commander Marcus Stone. "Machines can't adapt fast enough," Stone replied, monitoring the drill readings. "When something goes wrong down there, we need humans who can think and react instantly." The first test drilling revealed the full danger of their situation. The core pressure was even worse than the Volani had calculated. The planet could collapse completely within weeks, not months. "We need to work faster," Dr. Carter told Captain Rodriguez. "But that means taking bigger risks." Rodriguez looked at the data showing the planet's condition. Every day they delayed meant more Volani cities would be lost. But rushing the operation could trigger a planetary explosion that would kill everyone. "We do it right, not fast," she decided. "These people trusted us with their world. We're not going to let them down." The humans worked in shifts around the clock, while some teams drilled new relief points. Others placed carefully calculated explosive charges at precise depths. The explosives were simple chemical devices, nothing like the exotic energy weapons used by advanced species, but they could be controlled exactly. The first controlled fracture was scheduled for a deep ocean trench 300 miles from the nearest city. The entire Volani population watched as the humans prepared to deliberately break part of their world. "Charges are in place," reported Staff Sergeant Diana Price from the deep drilling platform. "All personnel clear of the blast zone." Captain Rodriguez gave the final authorization. "Execute the fracture." The explosion was felt across the entire planet. A new crack opened in the ocean floor, releasing built-up pressure in a controlled burst. Instead of random destruction, the core energy was directed into an empty area where it could do no harm. "It worked," Dr. Carter announced, reading the pressure measurements. "Core stress in the target area has dropped by 30%. The Volani cheered, but the humans knew this was just the beginning. They needed to create dozens of similar relief points across the planet. Each one required the same dangerous drilling and explosive placement. The work became a race against time. Human teams spread across Tidal Prime, working in the most unstable areas of the planet. They drilled through collapsing seafloor, placed charges in active fault lines, and triggered controlled explosions while the planet shook around them. During the fifth operation, disaster struck. A massive core pulse hit, while Amy Foster's drilling platform was still in the danger zone. The seafloor collapsed beneath them, trapping the platform in a crushing vise of rock and metal. "Platform 7 is down," Foster reported, her voice calm despite the deadly situation. "We're trapped in the collapse zone. Main power is gone." The logical response would be to evacuate the area and write off the trapped crew. The advanced civilizations calculated acceptable losses for all operations. But the humans didn't abandon their people. "We're coming to get you," Captain Taylor announced, already directing rescue ships toward the collapse site. "Negative," Foster replied. "The charges still need to be placed manually. If we don't complete this operation, the whole sector could collapse randomly." The rescue became a desperate mission. Human crews worked frantically to dig through the collapsed seafloor, while Foster and her team continued their work from inside the trapped platform. They had only hours before the area became completely unstable. Commander Stone led a team of volunteers into the collapse zone. Using simple cutting tools and sheer determination, they fought through tons of debris to reach the trapped platform. Every minute increased the danger, but they never considered giving up. Why do they risk so much for strangers? Wave Dancer asked Captain Rodriguez as they watched the rescue operation. "Because that's what you do for your crew," Rodriguez replied. And after working together these past weeks, you're all part of our crew now. The rescue succeeded just as the charges were placed. Foster's team was pulled to safety moments before the controlled explosion created another pressure relief point. The operation was successful, but it had cost them valuable time and equipment. Despite the setbacks, the humans continued their work. They adapted their methods, learned from each operation, and gradually created a network of controlled fracture points across the planet. The random collapse of Volani cities slowed, then stopped entirely. But the most dangerous work was still ahead. The largest pressure buildup was directly beneath the Volani capital city. To save the most populated area, someone would have to place charges in the most unstable part of the planet's core. It was a mission that would require perfect timing, incredible skill, and tremendous courage. Most importantly, it would require someone willing to sacrifice everything to save a world full of strangers. The humans had come to Tidal Prime because no one else would help. Now they faced their greatest test, proving that sometimes the best technology is a brave heart and the refusal to give up. The controlled fracturing operations had worked better than anyone expected. Across Tidal Prime, the humans had created 23 pressure relief points, stopping the random collapse of Volani cities. But their success had revealed an even greater problem. Dr. Alex Carter studied the latest readings with growing concern. The core pressure isn't just releasing through our fracture points, he told Captain Rodriguez. It's building up in one massive concentration directly beneath the capital city. The news was devastating. All their work had inadvertently directed the planet's destructive energy toward the most populated area on Tidal Prime. Nearly half the Volani population lived in the great coral metropolis of Deep Current. How long do we have? Rodriguez asked. Maybe a week, Carter replied grimly. When this pressure releases, it won't just destroy the city. The explosion could crack the planet in half. Captain Ben Taylor examined the geological data. The pressure concentration was located 8 miles beneath the ocean floor, in the most unstable part of the planetary core. Reaching it would require drilling through layers of shifting rock while the entire area threatened to collapse. We can do it, Taylor announced to the assembled human crews. But this isn't like the other operations. This will be a one-way mission for whoever goes down there. The drilling platform would have to be positioned directly above the pressure point. Once the charges were placed, the operator would need to stay behind to ensure proper detonation timing. There would be no time for evacuation before the explosion. Master Sergeant Diana Price listened to the mission briefing without emotion. She had led the most dangerous operations throughout the campaign, always volunteering for the jobs no one else wanted to take. I'll do it, she said simply. Diana, you don't have to, Rodriguez began. Yes, I do, Price interrupted. I've got the most experience with deep core charges. I know these systems better than anyone. It has to be me. The other humans tried to find alternatives. Could they use remote detonation? Could they trigger the explosion from a safe distance? Every option was examined and rejected. The timing had to be perfect, and only a human operator could make the necessary adjustments. Meanwhile, the Volani Council was facing their own crisis. When they learned about the suicide mission, many members voted to stop the operation immediately. We cannot ask these humans to die for us, declared Elder Wave Dancer. Better that we accept our fate than watch noble beings sacrifice themselves. Deep Counselor Tide Rising disagreed. If we stop now, everyone dies anyway. At least this gives our people a chance to survive. Captain Zara Vex found herself torn between gratitude and horror. The humans had already done more than anyone else in the galaxy, but now they were willing to give their lives for strangers. Why? She asked Captain Rodriguez during a private meeting. Your people have families back on Earth. Why would you sacrifice so much for us? Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Because someone has to. And we happen to be here. The simple answer carried more weight than any grand speech. The humans weren't trying to be heroes or prove their superiority. They were just doing what they believed was right. Across the galaxy, the major civilizations watched the human operation with growing interest. What had started as an amusing sideshow was becoming something unprecedented. The primitive humans were actually succeeding where advanced technology had failed. The Kirathi Empire sent observation ships to monitor the situation. Fascinating, commented Fleet Admiral Krexvon. These humans use completely illogical methods, yet they achieve results. The Zephyrian Collective was equally puzzled. Their emotional decision-making should lead to failure, noted ancient sage Whispermind. Yet they continue to succeed through determination alone. Even the Dominar Federation, which prided itself on military efficiency, was impressed by human tactics. They work without perfect information or guaranteed success, observed War Marshal Thrix. Such behavior is tactically unsound, yet strategically effective. Back on Tidal Prime, Price prepared for her final mission. The drilling platform UES Determination was specially modified for the operation. Extra armor protected the vital systems. Additional supplies extended operational time, and manual controls replaced automated systems. The night before the mission, Price sat in the platform's small crew compartment, writing letters to her family on Earth. She had joined the space fleet to see the universe, not to die on an alien world. But she had no regrets about her choice. Commander Marcus Stone visited her before launch. "You sure about this, Diana?" "Someone has to push the button," she replied. "Might as well be me." The mission began before dawn. Price took the Determination down into the deepest trench near the Volani capital. The water pressure at that depth would crush an unprotected human instantly, but the platform was built to handle even worse conditions. As she descended toward the planetary core, Price could feel the massive pressure building below. The planet itself seemed to pulse with dangerous energy, like a bomb waiting to explode. Reaching target depth, she reported to the surface, beginning drilling operations. The drill cut through 8 miles of unstable rock while the seafloor shook constantly. Several times, minor collapses nearly buried the platform, but Price kept working. She had calculated exactly where the charges needed to be placed to redirect the core explosion safely. "Charges in position," she announced after 12 hours of continuous drilling. "Ready for detonation sequence." On the surface, the entire human fleet and all the Volani cities waited. This single explosion would determine whether Tidal Prime survived or was torn apart completely. "Diana, you've got maybe 30 seconds after you trigger the charges," Dr. Carter warned. "The pressure release will be massive." "Understood," Price replied calmly. Beginning final sequence. She activated the charges one by one, each precisely timed to channel the explosion in the right direction. As the countdown reached 0, Price made her final transmission. "Tell my family I was thinking of them. Tell the Volani their world is safe. Fire in the hole." The explosion lit up the ocean floor like a second sun. A controlled burst of core energy erupted through the carefully planned fracture points, releasing enough pressure to power a civilization for centuries. The blast was felt across the entire planet, but it was directed safely away from populated areas. When the shockwave ended, Tidal Prime was stable for the first time in months. The random collapses stopped. The ocean level stabilized. The great coral cities were safe, but Master Sergeant Diana Price was gone, lost in the explosion that saved a world. The humans had succeeded in their impossible mission, but the cost had been higher than anyone wanted to pay. They had proven that sometimes courage and determination could accomplish what advanced technology could not. The question now was whether their sacrifice would be remembered or forgotten by a galaxy that measured worth in profit and power rather than compassion and heroism. The explosion that saved Tidal Prime created ripples far beyond the ocean world. As news of Master Sergeant Diana Price's sacrifice spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. The major civilizations began to pay serious attention to humanity. In the days following the successful mission, Captain Lisa Rodriguez received communications from species that had never acknowledged human existence before. The Karathi Empire requested detailed technical reports on the fracturing operations. The Zephyrian Collective wanted to study human decision-making processes. The Dominar Federation offered military alliance proposals. "Interesting how everyone wants to be our friend now," Commander Marcus Stone observed as another diplomatic message arrived. Rodriguez reviewed the communications with growing irritation. Where were these offers when the Volani were dying? They only care now because we succeeded. The humans continued their work on Tidal Prime for several more months. The controlled fracturing had solved the immediate crisis, but the planet needed long-term stability. Working with Volani engineers, they developed permanent solutions to monitor and control core pressure. The breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. Volani engineering student Tidewalker approached Lieutenant Sophie Martinez with an unusual idea. Instead of fighting the planet's natural instability, why not work with it? Your explosive methods create temporary relief, Tidewalker explained through the translation device. But our living coral technology could create permanent pressure release systems. Martinez, a xenobiologist who had spent months studying Villani biotechnology, immediately understood the possibilities. Living structures that grow along the fracture lines. They could adapt automatically to changing pressure levels. The human-Villani partnership produced something neither species could have created alone. Combining human engineering methods with Villani biotechnology, they developed coral structures that could grow and adapt to planetary conditions. These living pressure release systems would keep Tidal Prime stable for thousands of years. It's beautiful, Dr. Alex Carter admitted as he watched the first biomechanical coral begin growing along a fracture line. We broke the planet to save it, and now it's healing itself. The success story attracted attention throughout the galaxy. Major news networks sent reporters to cover the primitive humans who had accomplished the impossible. Most expected to find advanced technology or hidden weapons that explained human success. Instead, they found simple tools, basic methods, and ordinary people who refused to give up. The reporters struggled to understand how such crude techniques could succeed where advanced civilizations had failed. "What is your secret technology?" asked Kirathi journalist Vex Prime during an interview with Captain Rodriguez. "We don't have secret technology," Rodriguez replied honestly. "We just used what we had and didn't quit when things got difficult. But surely you must have some advantage the great civilizations lack." Rodriguez thought about Diana Price, who had given her life to save strangers. She thought about Amy Foster, who had kept working while trapped in a collapsing platform. She thought about all the humans who had volunteered for dangerous missions without being asked. "Maybe we do have an advantage," she said finally. "We don't calculate whether helping people is profitable. We just help." The interview was broadcast across the galaxy, but most civilizations dismissed it as primitive thinking. How could emotional decision-making be superior to logical analysis? How could compassion be more effective than calculation? The answer came during the final ceremony on Tidal Prime. The Villani had planned a simple celebration to thank the humans before they departed. Instead, it became something much more significant. Deep Counselor Wave Dancer addressed the gathering of humans and Villani in the Great Coral Amphitheater. Her words were translated into dozens of languages and broadcast to watching civilizations across the galaxy. "We called to the stars for help," she began, her voice carrying across the crystal chambers. "The most advanced civilizations heard our call. They sent us calculations proving why we were not worth saving. They offered us cold logic that said our deaths were acceptable losses." The amphitheater was completely silent except for the gentle sound of water flowing through coral channels. But humanity, young, simple, supposedly primitive humanity, sent us something different. They sent ships and people willing to die for strangers. They sent soldiers who volunteered for suicide missions. They sent engineers who worked in collapsing trenches. They sent leaders who refused to abandon us when the situation seemed hopeless. Wave Dancer gestured toward the human crew members sitting in the front rows. Many had bandages from injuries sustained during the dangerous operations. All had given months of their lives to save a world they had never seen before. "Perhaps it is not technology that makes a civilization truly advanced," Wave Dancer continued. "Perhaps advancement is measured by the willingness to help others, even when it costs us everything." The ceremony concluded with an unexpected announcement. The Villani were formally petitioning the Galactic Council for humanity's immediate admission, not as a junior member learning from superior civilizations, but as a founding species for a new alliance. "We propose the creation of the Compassionate Alliance," Wave Dancer declared, "an organization dedicated to the principle that no sapient species should face extinction alone. We invite any civilization that values life over profit to join us." The proposal sent shockwaves through galactic politics. The major powers had always controlled the Galaxy Council through their technological and military superiority. The idea of an alliance based on compassion rather than power was revolutionary. Within days, dozens of smaller species announced their interest in joining the Compassionate Alliance. Worlds that had been ignored or exploited by the major powers saw an opportunity for something better. The alliance grew from a simple proposal to a legitimate political movement. The Kirathi Empire, Zephyrian Collective, and Dominar Federation found themselves in an unusual position. Their traditional dominance was being challenged not by superior weapons or technology, but by an idea that help should be freely given to those who need it. As the human fleet prepared to leave Tidal Prime, Captain Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the UES Endeavour, looking down at the restored ocean world. The coral cities glowed with bioluminescent life, and the new pressure release systems pulsed gently along the seafloor. Reef singer Coral Twin had come aboard to say goodbye. "Why did you really help us?" she asked. "The truth this time," Rodriguez smiled. "Because someone had to. And we happened to be available." Such a simple answer, Coral Twin mused. Yet it changes everything. As the human ships departed Tidal Prime, they carried more than just the satisfaction of a successful mission. They carried proof that the galaxy's newest species had something to offer, that the oldest civilizations had forgotten the simple belief that helping others was always the right thing to. The story of Tidal Prime spread across the galaxy, inspiring other young species and challenging established powers. Humanity had sought no reward for their sacrifice, no territory for their victory, no tribute for their success. They had simply done what they believed was right. In the end, that turned out to be the most powerful force in the galaxy. The humans had answered a call for help that others ignored. In doing so, they had not only saved a world, they had shown the galaxy what true advancement really meant.